Well, we have been following treatments for COVID-19 as these weeks have played out, and one is Remdesivir. And joining us now to talk about the latest is Eric Arlia, MBA, the Senior Director of the System Pharmacy for Hartford HealthCare. Eric, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's refresh everybody. What is Remdesivir? Describe what this type of medication is.
So Remdesivir is an antiviral medication. It's newly under development. It's the first antiviral medication that has shown to be effective in stopping the COVID-19 virus.
The FDA just approved an EUS emergency use authorization for Remdesivir. So aside from clearance to administer the drug, what does that mean?
So an emergency use authorization is something that the FDA will do during a public health emergency when a new treatment, whether it's a drug or a test, has shown promise to help mitigate the current situation. So Remdesivir hasn't gone through the full FDA approval process, but it has been approved to be used in a subset of patients with severe COVID-19 symptoms.
Okay, and we understand a shipment came into the state over the weekend. Tell us about that and how quickly you're able to turn your supply around.
Sure. So we've all been waiting for FEMA to send our Remdesivir supply, and we found out on Saturday morning that the state of Connecticut received our supply. So working with state authorities and the Connecticut Hospital Association, we at Hartford HealthCare were able to afternoon. We were able to distribute it out to all the hospitals within our network and have it available for our prescribers to start using as early as Saturday evening.
All right, so tell us, how big of a supply did you get? How many people can you treat, and how many have you treated so far?
Sure. So we got enough for about 50 patients using a 5-day treatment regimen that our clinical leadership has approved. So we've already treated about 10 to 15 patients in the last 3 days, and we're waiting for further guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services on further shipments into the future.
Okay, so tell us, what is the criteria for giving someone Remdesivir?
Sure. So Remdesivir is an intravenous medication, so it's not a pill, it's not a tablet that can be taken. So far it's been tested in critically ill patients. Typically they have to have an oxygen level below a certain threshold. Most often the patients will be receiving some sort of mechanical ventilation. This doesn't mean that's the only group of patients that it'll be effective in long term. We all have to remember that it is fairly new to being studied, and that is the first population it was tested in. So that's what we received the emergency authorization from the FDA on.
Okay, and let's talk about the results you're seeing. Tell us what Remdesivir does to help people with COVID-19.
So the early results from the study showed that patients who received it, we saw a decrease in their total hospitalization time from about 15 days to 11 days. So we don't expect to see an immediate effect with patients. We really will be watching them over the next week to 2 weeks to see if the patients who have been receiving Remdesivir are recovering more quickly and are able to leave the hospital more quickly.
Okay, and that's great news. So, Eric, tell us about the long-term, the supply chain for Remdesivir, the production. What are you hearing? What is the status right now?
Sure. I think it's important to note that the company that developed it, Gilead Pharmaceuticals, really did a tremendous job in starting production as early as January, even before these results came out. They're hoping to have as many as 5 million doses made by the end of the year. Also keep in mind that's for total worldwide supply. And they've set certain benchmarks for how many doses they'd like to have at different points of time during the year this year. And they're really working to slow down the steps in their processes to make it more efficient to make.
Boy, every day we hear about new developments and supply chains and companies doing so much to get ahead of it. Eric, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us and bring us up to date on your Remdesivir supply. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.